So we all know the movie Exodus has begun a lot of controversy over the last few months because the cast is full of white people and historically inaccurate, and people have an issue with that. He finally responded. His words were simply, "I can't mount a film of this budget where I have to rely on the tax rebate in Spain and say that my lead actor, Mohammed so-and-so, and such. Scott told the magazine that I'm just not going to get financed, so the questions came up." All right, here we go. All right, so I was gonna do a video where I discuss a bunch of these different movies that were having the same problem and issue, and correlate it to how Christians have an issue with the movie Noah, which black people had an issue with that movie as well because again you had a white dude playing Noah, biblically historically accurate. It shouldn't have been a white dude, but in the movie it is, and Christians had a problem with that movie because it was biblically inaccurate completely, and the same advice I have for both groups, right, is that you have to create the content for it to be the way you want it to be. You can't have someone else have an idea, spend their money, and then try to dictate what they should do or who should be in it. You can protest by not watching it, which I agree. I do think it's beyond intellectual dishonest to have these men play these roles. However, I do understand the way the world works and how money works and how promotion and the media works. So I guess I'll expound on that. Now, the guy in this movie said, Ricky, that it was purely economical why he did that. Now, some people look at it and say, well, you got these white dudes playing, historically actors of people of color. That is a problem. I agree with that. I can't support that because I think it takes away from the reality of what was going on historically. But it's not just Christian Bale playing Moses, right? It's The Dark Knight 3 times. It's The Terminator. It's freaking Psycho, right? Christian Bale will sell those tickets that, like he said, Muhammad so-and-so wouldn't. That's just a fact. That can't be disputed. And if you want to, I guess, make this particular director be on some activist stuff and take that risk and put in, this person of color who possibly could have done a good job or whatever, but take that risk on a budget that big, it's not logical to do that, right? Again, I don't support it. I think it is intellectually dishonest, and I won't pay to see the movie. But I understand that casting Christian Bale is going to make money regardless. Just like Russell Crowe in Noah. It's not just Russell Crowe, right? It's the gladiator playing Noah, right? He's going to also sell tickets. It is what it is. This reminds me of what happened with Will Smith in the movie Hitch. And he took controversy for saying what he was saying about, the only color in Hollywood is green or something like that. But he talked about how, I guess the questions were why wasn't his love interest black in the movie Hitch, which was a box office success. And I think, I'm paraphrasing, I don't know for sure, but I guess his point was that, the movie could have been written, it could have had a script, it could have been meant for a black female to play the love interest or whatever, who knows. But when it came to the people who are about making the money, and they look at promotion, and they look at, they do all their research to say who's going to come watch this, what demographics we trying to reach, and they were like, well, damn, we got, if we put a black love interest in here, it's possibly not going to sell as well. It's possibly not going to get the Hispanic market. And that's what they wanted to tap into. And they did that by casting not Eva Menendez. Yeah, Eva Menendez. She was the love interest in that movie. So that, her playing in that cast, her being picked and her being chosen was purely economic. And you'll see that, Denzel Washington's character, love interest in Out of Time was also a Puerto Rican chick. The same chick was his love interest in Training Day. So it's like, sometimes it's you got to make chess moves in this reality. Again, I'm not making excuses for, a movie that's supposed to be more, not only just as historically accurate, but it's a biblically historic movie, and definitely think that these characters, it's taken away from the essence of what was really going on in those days. However, when it comes to the economic side, I do understand that, they're not, okay, Eldris Alba is not going to sell the tickets or, make the movie as big as a Christian Bale. That's just a fact. why you want to dictate why that is or whatever is whatever. But the reality is the end game is, some no-name actor possibly won't. It's not a possibility. He's not going to move those tickets. These people they're vetted. They have successful movies. They've sold movies that are worth more than this, and that's just gonna happen. The first time I've ever really acknowledged that yo, this is going on, or not it's going on, but it was to me it was a sleight of hand, was the movie Prince of Persia with Jake Gyllenhaal, and this is right after 300 came out. And I'm like, really now? You gonna have a white dude play the Prince of Persia? And I'm just I wasn't feeling that. Being that, I grew up, I never played the game, but a lot of my boys did, and a lot of people talked about it all the time. But, it's supposed to be an ethnic movie or whatever, right? And again, I'm not saying that, I didn't watch the movie. I don't know if he did a good job or not. And I'm not saying some of these actors can't do a good job or play the role. And I think that's another aspect that people, miss out on, is that, there is a craft involved. There is a trade involved where, an actor's trying to prove himself to say, even though the original character is supposed to be black or whatever, I'm going to play this role so well that that's not even going to matter when I get done. I'm not saying that's the case now, but I'll argue that that does exist, where you do have, there's a bunch of actresses, especially female actresses, that Jennifer Lopez, I don't think she's ever played. Okay, she's played one role that I would think that belonged to a Hispanic woman, and she played a damn maid in her first movie where she's being a Hispanic woman. But she's been I think it was called U-Turn. She was an Indian chick in the movie, and that happens often where Native American or natives to America, their women, when they get roles, they're never playing Native Americans. They're always playing Puerto Ricans or Italians sometimes. Marissa Tomei in her last movie, the Italian chick from My Cousin Vinny, she just played, I don't know if she was either a Yemenis or, she was either Israeli or she was an Arabic, but she played that role, and it threw me off because I'm like, yeah, this is the Italian chick, but she was simply, she acted, she did what she had to do. It did throw me off though because of all the roles she's played in the past, and I'm just saying there's example after example I can go through. I haven't gone through my mind in movies of particularly females. If you remember the movie Summer of Sam with John Leguizamo, the sister, I think the white chick, she's white and she was playing a Puerto Rican in that movie or whatever. So I'm saying there is that aspect too, where sometimes a person, they get cast for a role, but because they were so damn good in the audition, and because they, did so, good, that they got the role because of that. Not saying that they had to be the same race as the person who it is. Now, another issue was, I was going to do a separate topic of it, but there was an issue about the movie Lucy as well, because when, the character in that movie was supposed to be, the main character, Lucy, was supposed to be black. According to the book, she was black. And a white chick came out with an article talking about how she's tired of her white female privilege, of her white men giving her opportunities and promotion in the media, and she's just so sick of it. But yeah, I was going to talk about that too, but basically the same thing happened where, she said she was tired of seeing white actresses on TV and white faces, but I find that funny because if they were underrepresented, if this wasn't a position that white men were giving to their women, that promotion, then it would be a different story. But that's a different video. But I don't know. I think it will hurt. To me, some people who are diehard historians and stuff like that, people who want to see a picture painted as it was, I definitely you'll lose that audience. But at the same time, again, like I said before, I understand that it's purely economics and it's money, and I think people are putting way too much or giving way too much credit or expecting way too much out of Hollywood. Like, you're expecting way too much. And like I said too, the issue Christians have is the same thing when atheists. The person who directed Noah was an atheist, so he turned the movie into an environmentalist movie, right? And Christians were all mad and boycott, saying don't watch it, blah blah blah. But the whole point of all of this is if you don't create the content and make it yourself, again, you don't have to support it, but you can't be mad at those who did the work. And a lot of times, so you have a Christian story like Noah, a biblical story. I'm not gonna say Christian, a biblical story like Noah, and they're mad because an atheist did the movie. Like, you shouldn't be mad. That you should expect him to do that. Why would you expect an atheist to not propagandize the movie in his own, benefit, right? And then you have the same issue with black people where, for example, this is where the situation flips though, is like the movie, Aaliyah's movie took a lot of backlash because it was supposed to be horrible. But generally when white people do movies, like tell black stories, they change it and they put people to play roles that a lot of black people don't identify with as black. But in this example with the Aaliyah movie, who, what's her name, Wendy Williams directed or whatever, she kind of did the same thing. She put in a bunch of half-breeds and mixed people to represent black people. And a lot of black people didn't like, not only was the story bad, I guess, but the people who were playing Timberland and Missy Elliott, Aaliyah, people weren't, they didn't accept that. And I'm going to do another video on my other channel, and I'll link it, why you have to define a race, why on both ends, where you can't have black people who say, well, my president is black on one hand, but then you get upset when a biracial person is playing a role that is meant for a black person. Like, you can't have it both ways, and I'll address that in a different video. There was an article, I was in this group, I think it's Black and Republican group on Facebook, and a lot of people, it was an article posted, which was there on purpose to troll, but it was like 10 black actors that could pass for white or whatever like that. And I'm like, a better title would have been 10 half-breeds that look more white. Not 10 black actors that pass for white. And it had the gay dude, Michael Scofield from Prison Break. It had Quincy Jones' daughter, like all these people who, if you looked at them, you would not think they were black at all. You would probably think they were white. Or some type of ethnic white. But anyways, that's a different video as well. I'll talk about that later. Just to recap, I understand the frustration. I don't feel the need to protest because I understand if you're not creating the content, if you're not making it, if you're not directing it, if you're not telling your own stories, and other people are, you can't really get mad when they put in or direct people, cast people for certain roles. Now, if you were paying for it and supporting it, putting your money and energy into it, you have every right to say something about it. However, you can vote, your feelings about the situation by not going to see it, obviously. But in reality, one thing about that is, I think, and I'm looking at the comments on HuffPost or Black Voices or whatever, people are like, I hope the movie flops and this and that. And I'm like, I'm almost positive when they did their marketing research, they knew this would happen. This is nothing new. And they pretty much excluded your dollar in the first place. They weren't counting on your dollar, period. Right? There's enough people who will support the movie, who want to see a Christian Bale in there, just like we want to see an Eldris Alba possibly in there, or some other ethnic group in there. They're going to support the movie regardless, right? So I don't think the movie will flop. And I'm an era movie type of person. I love movies like, Apocalypse 300, Gladiator, stuff like that. I'm a fan of Game of Thrones. I love movies from, back in the day like that, right? And so off the bat, that was interesting to me. Then you have to be the biblical aspect, but I'm not paying money to see the white dude play Moses or Pharaoh. I'm not paying for it. I'm just not. But that's just my take on it. If you don't control the content, if you don't create it yourself, you can't be mad at people who, use their money and resources, or they're contingent upon, other people's resources, because this movie is being built off of some tax credits in Spain, so they have to think about that market as well, and they have to think about, who's going to, what demographic is going to watch this movie particularly the most, and who's going to sell the most tickets into the theater, who's going to make this movie make a bunch of money. And the cast that they have are all, big A, B actors, so it is what it is.